Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Corey Vella. I'm the General Manager for Independent Vets of Australia, and welcome to today's webinar. One of many of our sessions that we run throughout the course of the year. And today we've got a fantastic session that's going to be presented by Stuart Towers from iRecall on making automation your ally. Just a little bit about IVA, just very, very quickly before Stuart gets underway. So for those of you who don't know IVA, because I know we have some of the IVA members on our session today, and there are some who are not. So for those who don't know IVA, so we're a collective cooperative, of like-minded practices that have effectively joined forces, I guess, if you will, to get better support and for them to be able to continue to be independent for as long as they want to be independent within their practices. The areas where we reach and where we support the practices, and it stretches right across the breadth of the business. It's not just sort of in sort of one area or one sort of pocket. We sort of try and reach the as many aspects of the business as possible, and certainly the obvious sort of things of from your wholesale and procurement sort of side, where we have arrangements with our major sort of wholesale providers, manufacturers, a raft of various industry partners that we have that are associated with IVA, and we have a partnership arrangement with, into sort of business development, management support. So we sort of try and get from one end of the business to the other to support you in any way we can to allow you to do what you do best. So currently IVA is, as of today, we are sitting at 77 practices across the country, and certainly continue to grow. So we're delighted today to have Stuart, who is one of our partners for IVA with iRecall. Very important partnership. Stuart and iRecall have been a part of the IVA family since the beginning. Stuart, as I recall, and certainly the presentation today is around boosting your communication platform and looking at how that impacts into your business every day. I mean, iRecall have over 200 practices that use the iRecall platforms currently. And today is just a bit of an introduction into that platform, plus other areas of reach that Stuart's business has as well. Many of you probably know Stuart already, either already chatted with him or met him at some stage in the industry at some stage. But certainly today is going to be an interesting session. We've also got an interview that Stuart's going to be doing with one of Stuart's customers in Canberra. So I'm delighted to welcome Stuart to the session, and I'll hand that over to him now. Stuart, it's up to you.
Thanks, Corey. I'm just sharing my screen with everybody, so I hope you can see what I'm looking at, which is essentially the title of today is Making Automation Your Ally. And thanks for the introduction from Corey and from Roxy and the people at IVA who helped to put this thing together and working together. And great to see so many people logged on to the session. Just for full disclosure, my business is a business I've been running for about 9 years called Local Rep. So we help various companies by putting a salespeople out around and also talking about different products and services that help the veterinary industry. So Local Rep has been going a little while. iRecall is a very good client of Local Rep, but I also support other companies. Some of those other companies are mentioned in this presentation. Vetstoria is one, Nose Wellness is another, but I'm also going to mention other companies that we don't have a direct link with, but suit this situation where we think that automation in veterinary clinics is increasingly important, and some ideas that you might think about. So why is it important? We all know what veterinary best practice should look like, and I'm sure you've all sitting in clinics today who are running perfectly. You've got customers coming in happy, they're not waiting too long, the vets are keeping busy, they're invoicing everything they should, and the invoicing process is going well, and everybody goes happy. I'm sure that's probably not always the case. There's a list of things here maybe that a few of you will recognize. you've got 30 clients and the first client arrives 15 minutes late, the X-ray machine might be broken, person who does vaccine reminders is on holiday, reception team is tied up on phones, everything that sounds a bit more realistic about what life is like normally in a veterinary clinic. So what we should do to make it happen and to improve that, my message is we should delegate more and we should automate where possible to get a lot of this stuff happening. And really the focus of the presentation today, and I'll be talking for about 20-25 minutes, no longer, but the focus of the presentation today is on how technology can help you in making some of this automation happen. And what do I mean by automation? It's basically technology and processes that can improve the customer outcomes, healthier animals and happier owners. Can reduce your admin workload, which apart from less work, it means your staff will probably be more fulfilled, and improve the workflow to lead to healthier clinical outcomes and finances. And it's not automation for the sake of it. What we talk about is appropriate automation. You're all running businesses or you're managing businesses. You've got to make the decisions what suits your business. In here, there's some ideas, but I'd be focusing on work that prevents you from, reducing the work that prevents you from spending more time face-to-face speaking with clients. Reduce bureaucratic work, avoid double entry, and it doesn't mean to be mindless. It needs to be personalized and it needs to be effective. Just because it's automatic, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. We have to all make those decisions on the process. I go in a lot of clinics, and where I really see good things happening in clinics is where clients are walking into the waiting room and they're being spoilt by the staff or spoilt by the reception people, or the vets come out and give the animals a real proper reception when they come into the clinic. And often that can only work if the back end systems and everything is running smoothly. So my message also in this is ignore new technology at your peril. I picked up a survey recently, which was done in the US actually, but I think it's very relevant here, which sort of looks at millennials. Millennials are told, and I looked it up earlier, millennials were born between 81 and 96. 92% of them are concerned about their pets' health as concerned about their pets' health as their own health. They really care. 19% would give up their job before they give up their pet. And 81% want their veterinarian to automatically recognize them when they call. But 72% had to wait while their account was looked at. So there's some sort of stretch targets there that direction we're going in. But as your clients become, you have more and more millennials, what they look for is getting different. So in automation and the areas I'm just going to talk about in this session, there's 5 really. I'm going to assume that you're all using a practice management system of some sort already. And then on top of that, I think there's areas of stock control, online processes, demand generation, charge management, and lab diagnostics and in-hospital procedures where you can look at ways of improving your workflow and systems, and in some cases, choose products that can help you automate the process. I'm not very many, some of you will be aware, and some will be using products like SmartFlow, which is been used now for several years in Australia and is developing. Very much going at improving processes, charging and such like within veterinary practices. As it began, it was high end to start with, but becoming more and more common as we go forward. Online processes and product ordering for people, whether it be for their parasiticide products or their food, quick and easy reordering, collecting from the practice, click and collect type services are now available. Driving footfall into the practice is interesting. This is one example in a clinic I was in not that long ago, where they're getting a message around worming onto their phone and coming into the clinic to buy a worming product. And whilst they're booking other things, we can drive footfall. It won't suit everybody. Some people prefer to get it delivered, and we'll talk about that with food shortly. But driving footfall automatically can be good for your business. So convenience is king. You'll have seen Nose recently, which is a pet care made easy company who are helping independent practices promote and deliver wellness plans. And there are more and more becoming important for some clients, of course, not all. And part of their offer is also to deliver products direct to the home and the owners of the animals. Convenience is king for a lot, particularly these millennials and other people where they would like to book online. Online booking is one of the features that I think new clients are looking for in vet clinics these days. With Vetstoria here, you talk about convenience is king and making sure it's effective. You've got the information on your database for these clients. So when you send this kind of information, you can see there on the right-hand side that the information you've already got is filled into for the client already. So all they need to do is pick a time and a vet and confirm a booking, even if it's midnight or while the clinic's closed. Another thing that can be very easily automated now is online reputation management. What people are saying about you on Facebook and Google and the like. We do this now with iRecall in terms of sending out a not reminder messages, but communications to say, how did we do? We think in that area, timing is critical. Make sure it goes as soon as possible after the transaction is made so they still can remember it. We need to spread the word. We encourage people who've given you a net promoter score, a high net promoter score, to go and tell people on Facebook and Google. And you can also now in automated continuous testimonial feed on your website. So if you're getting this positive feedback from these surveys, that you can get that fed directly onto your website and make it effective that way. Again, automated. I'm sure everybody wants to keep their website moving, and it's somebody's job to update the website, but unless it gets automated, it often doesn't get done, or it gets delayed. If you can automate it, you've got a peace of mind that it's happening. I think it's interesting with websites as well. More and more people are not visiting your websites now as often as they were. They get their information from Google My Business, or they get their information from the reminder, which is the key stuff they need, the opening hours, it might be the telephone contact or the online booking link. So I think going forward, we're going to have to work harder with websites to make sure there's reasons on there for clients to go onto your website rather than visiting Dr. Google. You can get insights now by using this sort of feedback promoter score information. You can do it for different clinics in different ways, by team, by the type of appointments, and measuring how satisfied, how impressed your clients are, or otherwise. Okay, demand generation. How can we drive more people into the clinic? This is where I come back to the point here. An important point to consider is don't just make it as personal as you can. This is for you and your pets. It's not for a big generic thing. And where you can, newsletters, I think, are a very generic approach. And it's more like the right-hand side here, where you can personalize it and send it out to the senior dogs of certain breed and communication thing, I believe, going forward more effective. So one thing we would suggest in this area, what do you do now? How do you start looking at some of these things? You just do it as a sort of a dartboard approach and say, oh, we should automate the reminders, or we should have online booking, or we should, look at these other charging processes things. It's difficult. The recommendations that I hear about now is trying to sit down and take some time and say, what is the existing customer journey for people at your clinic? So why is a new client going to come to your clinic? What are they doing? Are they looking at online reviews? You go through the process. Are they ringing the clinic and checking up and maybe asking you a price? And try and break down what is going on in the line between, when they're looking at a clinic, then when they ring up, and then when they turn up, and what do we ask them when they get to reception? What form do they fill out? What do we ask them when we get in the consult room, etc.? And how is the process going afterwards? So if you try and break that down, you'll end up with all these sort of points on a whiteboard where you might decide, what the best use of the time is. Can any of these things be automated? And sometimes you'll have the technology already. It might be existing in your practice management system. And is it optimized? Are you using what you've already got? So challenge yourselves by, what we would say, do a process audit of your business and essentially think of yourself as a client and how they're going through the journey dealing with you as a service provider. So there's many in that client life cycle. I think you'll find there is a lot of ways where automation can help. It's not everywhere, and you can't do all these things all at once. But on the top side there, bringing new clients, new clients going to come because they might have seen online reviews, website reviews, net promoter score tracking. How you handle new clients when they sign up. Do you send them a welcome pack? How do you communicate to them? What do they get to see about your practice? Then how do you activate clients? Have you got a wellness plan? Is it something you're promoting? Are you getting these people onto preventative care? How are you handling lapsed clients? Again, there is automated ways now where if somebody hasn't invoiced something for whatever time that you decide, maybe 15 months, that you send them a message saying, we're missing you, we haven't seen you. Same with vaccination. We all talk about vaccination reminders, which is important, of course, but there's a lot of people in your clinic who will not be getting vaccine reminders because they haven't been vaccinated in the last 12 or 18 months. And then obviously how you're handling loyal clients, ongoing reminders, tailored education, wellness, click and collect, online booking, all these things that you could bring into your process audit and see how it's the potential for your business. This is a slide I often like and try and relate to people of how important communication is to clients and not just what's going on in the clinic. What's going on in the clinic is, of course, very important. Your personal touch, your personal connection with the animals and the owners is a critical part of the business. However, it's only 0.01% of the time of that person's life. And 99, so most of the time they're clearly not in the clinic. So you only having this 15, 30 minutes impact on that client, in our opinion, is not enough. You have to work hard at connecting with that client, whether it be on reminders, whether it be on communications, websites, or whatever, because they're not going to be in the clinic in those periods. So influencing beyond the clinic door is what we're talking about here. That might be a parasite reminder, it might be an info, it might be a birthday message, it might be telling them about the new online booking. It's all this information. You have got a powerhouse in most of your clinics, which is called your database. So that's a great starting point to actually connect with your clients whilst they're not in the clinic. And my opinion is that it's not good enough anymore just to send them a vaccine reminder once a year. That's not real client, impressing clients, just getting a vaccine reminder once a year. Some of you are concerned sometimes that, about content management and how people need to be able to stop getting communications if they want to. And I totally agree. That's where preferences and clients being able to manage their preferences is a big issue, and it's going to become a bigger issue. So again, when choosing your technology, make sure you think about those things, that, how we're going to manage those people who prefer to get SMS and don't want email, for example. Automated and pre-scheduled. This is something we do in iRecall Engage here. More and more clinics now are looking at this kind of thing, where you can set up maybe 3 of those programs that you want to do in the year. And usually they get done in a rush just before the event happens. People come running out of a meeting saying, we've got to do our senior pet thing, or we've got to do our heartworm amnesty, etc. Overall, a lot of this stuff can be pre-scheduled and automated. So it's set to go on the 3rd of November. Everybody knows, and that could be done in March, April, May, or June. But think about those kind of things and how that's can be achieved. On the technology side, I saw this slide, or put this slide in here. It really just highlights where mobile phones have got to. Mobile phones are where people are continually running their lives from, even more so than laptops that I'm looking at. The home computers are struggling relatively to where everybody's using their mobile phone, which are becoming more and more important. So we have to try and think about that when engaging with clients. Postal reminders are still required to some extent. They're getting less and less so. And different communications, they are relatively expensive, of course, but overall, when I'm recommending a communication plan, in particular with reminders to clinics, my general recommendation, and again, it's up to the individual clinic decisions, of course, is to send SMS and email together. SMS is much more widely opened. Email is much better to look at. So email, where it is opened, is effective, but that's probably only 40% of the time. SMS is 99% opened. So the postal reminders are still important for those that where you don't have details of mobile numbers or email. Otherwise, go for both together. It would be my recommendation. So when choosing products, whether it be practice management systems or reminder systems or communication plans, we would say also be careful of jack of all trades, people that promise everything. Again, you all get the information. As a lot of these companies have very good websites, have very good information from there, but be careful of over promising, of course. There's a term in the software world that I'm now kind of involved in this area, which is called vaporware. So vaporware is something that's about to happen and it's not quite there and you can't get hold of it, but it's promised when you buy this product that will soon be able to provide it. Vaporware often is difficult to turn into realistic, and often is overpromised. So a little bit careful there. We'd recommend ultimate personalization using the names of the animals. This is a bit of an extreme case, of course, but if you get a message with the name of the animals and what they need, and whether it's a Bravecto or Milbamax or whatever else they need, and it's come with the name of the clinic on top of it, you're much likely to have a positive reaction from your client. So there's products here. Some of them I work with, some of them I don't. But the interesting thing about these products that I put on here is they're all built by vets for vets. These are very specific products that have come from the background. They haven't come from other industries. They've come with veterinary challenges and thoughts in mind, whether that's Vetstoria, SmartFlow, Sparkline, Profit Diagnostics, or the iRecall products. Another area of automation you might consider, I'm just checking the timing here just to make sure I'm going okay before I ask Rosemary a couple of questions. Stock management. Again, I would challenge yourselves to look, are you doing as much as you can to use wholesaler intelligence here? Automatic reordering is another process that within the business should be considered where you can. Therian is another one that's particularly in the product side. I see more and more use of these kind of products in very smart technology involved in veterinary practices. The people that do the labs and the diagnostics with VetConnect Plus, etc., and SmartFlow, again, automating a lot of what you can do with question reporting and workflows. And don't get lost. I'm not quite sure what that slide's supposed to thing, but it's don't get lost trying to do it all yourself. Find some trusted partners that you can work with. Challenge them in the early days. Don't let people take over. You've got to, trust is a two-way thing, of course. But trying to do it all yourself is, you can get dragged down into the hole if you're not too careful. And change. Doing it, it can get emotional. We know that in clinics. Some people have been doing the same thing in the same process for a long time. Don't take it lightly. Take your teams with you when you do decide to make a change, and what the decision process has been, and where possible, include them in your thinking. Will be my recommendation. Okay. What I'd like to do now is, if Corey can help me, is to introduce Dr. Rosemary Lang, who's there from Bungendore Veterinary Surgery. Are you there, Corey?
Yep, just here, Stuart. I've just got Rosemary in. So Rosemary, I've just got it. Rosemary, if you can unmute your sound and perhaps turn on your video. I think you need to do that at your end. There'll be an option there for you to click on. If we can get the technology to play nicely with us.
Okay, we'll work with that. Just by way of introduction, Rosemary is the owner of Bungendore Veterinary Services down in, I'm not sure whether it's the ACT or New South Wales.
Hello.
Rosemary can tell me.
There she is.
Hi, Rosemary. How are you?
Hi, Corey. Yeah, we are New South Wales.
You are New South Wales. Apologies.
Yeah, I said Canberra before. That's my apologies.
A lot of people do.
My apologies. It's like calling a Canadian American. You just don't do that.
So the reason for inviting Rosemary is Rosemary I worked with regarding iRecall, I think around 12 months ago, when Rosemary looked and changed the reminders, the vaccination reminders, and started using iRecall. Is that correct? Have we got the timing right, Rosemary?
Yeah, I think it was December last year we started using iRecall.
Okay. What were you using before iRecall, or what was your process for reminders?
We just did it through Vision. So one of our nurses would send out mostly text reminders.
Yeah.
Some backup emails and letters, but mostly it was through text, through Vision.
Okay. And were there any particular pain points or anything there that was awkward or difficult, or?
Biggest, it was time consuming. So we had one nurse receptionist who did it. So I guess the problem is if she was away, organising someone else to do it, but also very time consuming. And because it was time consuming, just getting the first reminder out, we were really not consistently getting second or third reminders out. So, but because by the time she did the first lot, she was on to the next group of first reminders. So that was our biggest area where we were falling down. I think
it was kind of difficult to keep track of where you were in the process.
Yeah. We were just keeping up with the first ones, and we just weren't doing a good enough job of getting subsequent reminders out.
Yeah. Okay. When you first looked at iRecall and you thought, okay, this might be a way that can improve, what made you think iRecall might be a good idea? Well, obviously you might tell me in a while what you think of iRecall now, but going back to the start, what was it that attracted you?
I guess that was talking to other vets that were using it. So we first saw it at the IVA conference, not this, last year. So I guess it piqued our interest, and then I spoke to some other vets in Sydney who'd been using it, and they'd been really happy with it and had a good response. So I guess that was a big thing for us, that you get positive feedback from other vets.
I think that's a good idea for a lot of these automated processes as well. All these other good ideas, there's likely, well, there should be other people locally or in and around Australia for sure that have used these systems and can give you some advice rather than just listening to the website, etc.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because my sister was a client of one of the practices in Sydney who was using it, and I also asked her how she found, she's on the receiving end, how she liked getting the reminders through iRecall.
Okay. And what did she tell you specifically? What was is it any different to getting any other reminders? How was her feeling?
Well, the specific ones for her were the wormers and tick control, and she just liked that they were reminded when they were due. So, that was the particular one for her. Yeah.
That's an interesting comment you make there, because I get that feedback a lot, particularly about parasite reminders. It's not about getting them to book an appointment or getting them to come into the clinic, but they see that as a useful reminder to get the product out of the cupboard.
Yeah.
It's an added value from the vet, not just saying, please come in and spend some more money. Yeah. How was implementation of iRecall for you? How was...
It took a bit of work. I mean, Janelle was really helpful. I guess it challenged us to tidy up our end as well, like make sure our reminders, our codes were set up properly, deciding how many we wanted to send out, the wording on the reminders, and that sort of varied depending on which vaccine it was. But it took a bit of work, but it wasn't too painful, and from the iRecall end, they were really helpful. So.
I had a look at you. I don't know whether you can see my screen just now, but there's a message you sent out yesterday here. So your short name is BVS Vets at the top.
Yes, we have a problem because Bungendore Veterinary Surgery doesn't fit along the top.
Yeah, just to explain that to anybody on the call, is that we can change the number that's usually numbers, of course, on the top of a text message. But we've got 11 characters we can use, which is due to the telephonic system here in Australia. In some longer names, we have to find a shorter version. If you come from a short name clinic, it's very useful in that thing. But here, I think there's a really good example where Dali, Jenna, Little Blackie, Miss Mac, Missy, and Rosie were due their F3 vaccination on the 1st of the 1st, believe it or not. And I think that's, we could all send a message out that said, your cats are due a vaccination, but compare that to actually putting the names of the animals in there. Looks quite good. What impact has iRecall had on your business overall, Rosemary?
I think it's been great. I mean, looking at the figures through iRecall, we've had a massive increase in most of them. We're definitely getting better compliance. So sending out those follow-up reminders has, I think, made a big difference. Yeah. I think we're getting a lot more of the overdue ones that are actually coming in because we send those later reminders if they've gone past their due date. So yeah, it's been great.
Good. Yeah, and I think that's, you know, comparing your before and after that, as you suggested earlier, that was a bit where you were getting lost on, you know, getting the first reminder out, but
it's the follow-up ones, yeah.
Ones that haven't come and whatever.
Yeah.
Any other benefits of iRecall apart from the automation?
I think it's given our nurse who used to do them more time to do other more important things. I think it looks professional. The emails that can be sent, because we do text, email, and backup letters. I think the emails look great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a positive. It's been a positive thing, both from making us look professional through the reminders, but also giving us time back in the clinic as well. And we're getting more we're vaccinating them more pets, so it's a positive for us and for them.
Yeah, and it's great. And thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think the point you made there at the end is you clearly have more time released from some of your staff to do other things, and probably things that are a bit more rewarding for them as well. Yeah. I know I speak to a lot of clinics who try and phone the clients, and it's a very personal touch, of course, to phone clients and say you're overdue your vaccine and da da da. But that's a huge onerous responsibility.
It's very time consuming too.
Yeah. And I don't think clients necessarily appreciate that way of contact these days. I think, in general, there's always some exceptions.
Yeah.
I'd be careful with that in terms of, it can, if you get a really strong individual that enjoys doing it, it would be unusual, but if they're really good at it, but more normal, I would say it's very difficult.
I think this has been really worthwhile for us. It's definitely a bit of work to set it up, but well worth the effort. Yeah.
And as you say, then never mind a reduction in work, that you then get more vaccinations and more. I think what's important too, you get better medicine. You got more you've got more pets out there that are protected for the right reasons, and that's great. Thanks very much, Rosemary. I appreciate your input, and thank you for joining the call.
You're welcome. Thanks, Stuart.
Lastly, I just put this future, what's around the corner. That strange looking picture there, where are we heading with this sort of thing? And I can't promise you anything on this, by the way, right now. It's just a bit of future thing, but it comes back from a little bit of what those millennials are saying, which is they want to be recognized when they come into the clinic. So we all know facial recognition now. My computer turns on in the morning when I look at it because it recognizes my face, which I quite like. I think going forward, keep your eyes and ears open. If you could recognize the individuals and know the name of their pet when they walk into the clinic and do a greeting in that sort of format, that is another type of area and the use of technology that is heading our way. The change of rate in technology, we think, is fast now. But I saw a slide the other day that if you think that it's the slowest in the next 10 years, currently it's a very slow rate. It's only going to get quicker. So keep your eyes out, keep your ears open, make sure it works for you. I'm happy to have any questions or any thoughts now. Corey, if you want to jump back on the call.
Yep, thank you. If there's any sort of questions to our audience, if you look at on the bottom of your screen, there's a chat option. You can write any questions there, and we'll be able to sort of see them and respond to them if there's anything there for Stuart. So just while people are having a look at that, in the meantime, obviously for further information for iRecall and certainly all the products around from iRecall from Stuart, certainly reach out to him and ask any questions that you have, and any look for any sort of details, and certainly and look at and explore the options further.
Yeah. So there's a question here from somebody saying about can they see the rest of the webinar? She came in halfway through, which I believe Roxy is going to make it available to all the participants as a recorded.
That's right.
Option. So thank you for that. There's also a question here about the uptake of click and collect. Click and collect, to those who are not aware, is where you can have a little white labeled website, if you like, on your text messages to say, I want to come in and collect my prescription again, or I might want to come in and collect my wormer. And you just basically, it sends an email to the clinic saying that Mrs. Jones is coming in to get some more Provecto or some more NexGard or whatever. That's not used hugely. I think it's steadily improving or steadily increasing. It's not a, you know, I think compared to getting the product out of the cupboard and letting people, is the biggest benefit of those kind of reminders. I think click and collect, particularly on refilling of scripts, I think will get more and more important as we go forward and it gets more sophisticated. Another question here around the suitability on practice management systems. And maybe I should make this point stronger as well. Whatever you do, obviously, when you're thinking about these technologies, it needs to be able to work in with your existing or your proposed practice management system. And I know only too well how hard it is to change practice management systems. And what is compatible to which system is a question you need to ask very early in the process. Certainly, iRecall isn't compatible with it. It is compatible with most, but not all practice management systems. Vetstoria with a few less. I know when it comes to SmartFlow and some of the other products, it's only on certain systems. So again, go maybe and talk to your practice management providers and see what they can do. But yeah, don't go too far down the track before checking whether it's compatible with your system. We have a question here from Andrew about the cost-benefit ratios for these various technologies. Great question, and absolutely should be considered. And there is more and more data and more sort of clinic experience now in how it is improving certain outcomes. Rosemary spoke there about her vaccine growth, which has been really good in terms of what she's achieved with iRecall. There was an early clinic that we had on iRecall that lifted their SR12 on a moving annual total basis by 21%. So they not only grew their SR12 injections rates, they also saved money on things like postage and whatever they were doing before and staff time. So again, I would challenge these providers when you get in touch or you look at their website and say, look, you know, I need to see a return on investment. What can you share? And certainly for things like iRecall, we can share individual experiences from other clinics. The one I always see that jumps a lot is when we put in the parasite reminders in clinics. And it just shows, and particular products like maybe 3-monthly wormers or generally flea and tick products get used much more quickly if you remind them on a dosage day basis. So don't send them a message after 6 months saying, I think you should buy some more. Send them a message after a month saying, don't forget to give Fluffy his NexGard tomorrow. That is the key for additional compliance and additional business. In that area, we'd see 30 to 40% growth in the early months on sales of parasiticides, often. Okay, I think I've covered all the questions there. I think, unless there's anything else, I would like to thank Corey and Roxy for putting this thing together, and all the participants that are on the call. It's great to have your interest. And if anybody needs to contact me through, you know, the IVA people, or if you haven't got my details, I'm sure they can share them with you. And we'll send a sort of a summary email around to everybody that's participated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Rosemary, also for your input, and thank you also to everyone again for attending. And as Stuart's mentioned, if you have any further information, you can reach out to him. And if you want to know anything further about IVA, you can certainly reach out to us as well. But certainly, thank you very much for all your information, Stuart. I know from an IVA perspective and the members that of IVA that are using iRecall speak highly of it, and the feedback has always been really positive. And for most of them, it's sort of a stage where it's a no-brainer, and they can certainly see the benefits of implementing the system into their practices. So thank you again. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll follow this up with some further communication. The recording will be available, so we'll send that communication and link out for that as well. But thanks again, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Court.